Hello, I'm Dr. Shana Solomon and I will be facilitating your intake today. What's your name?
My name's Jenna Wilson.
Nice to meet you, Jenna. Before we start with what brought you in for counseling today, I'm just going to ask you some basic demographic questions just to get a feel of your background information. So we'll start with how old you are.
I'm 20.
Okay. Are you single, married, divorced?
In a relationship. I have a boyfriend.
Okay. Also, before we start, I just want to make you aware that there are some limits to confidentiality. So first, I'm obliged to break confidentiality if I see a potential danger of you doing harm to yourself or to others, as well as I have to report any suspicions of abuse of a vulnerable person. So that encompasses elderly, children, and disabled people.
Okay.
And then also, I would have to break confidentiality if your psychological treatment is raised during the course of a lawsuit. So I would be forced by the court to reveal details of our sessions. So
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yep.
All right. So just tell me a little bit about what brings you in here today.
I have an extreme fear of public speaking.
Okay.
It makes me very anxious. Even talking about it and being here makes me a little anxious.
Okay. Tell me more about your symptoms, like how you feel.
I really don't like being the center of attention, especially in front of a crowd. My face gets red very easily, and so I feel like that alerts everyone that I am already shy up there, which makes me more nervous.
So it's more of like the process of your face getting red, and then you knowing that other people know you're nervous, that makes you even more nervous and anxious?
Yeah, it just adds to it. And like my palms get really sweaty, and when I know my face gets red, I can't stop thinking about it, and that just makes it more red.
Right.
And I can see that everyone's looking at me, and I'm convinced that they're saying like, "Oh, her face is so red, like she must be so embarrassed, like she looks so awkward up there."
Oh. So it's almost like you just are having these thoughts that are running through your head constantly while you're speaking.
I just feel like I'm gonna embarrass myself. I will talk really fast without realizing it because I think I just want to get it over with, and I think everyone's judging me, and I feel like, when I hear people whispering to each other that they're talking about me, I'm not doing a good job.
Right. So do you find it almost hard to focus on what you're presenting on or speaking about?
Yeah, I have to like read the screen a lot because when I look into the audience, I just start thinking about what they must think about me.
Okay. So it's mainly focuses on what the other people are thinking about you that triggers this sort of anxiety.
Yeah, I know they're judging me.
And what makes you think that?
I just know they are. The looks they're giving me, and with how red my face is, it's hard to hide the fact that I'm so nervous up there. I feel like I'm just wearing a sign that says like, I'm shy. I don't want to be up here. Like, look at me.
All right, I see. Do you think that anything else triggers this anxiety, or do you think it's solely? What I'm trying to say is, do you think it's mainly the public speaking, or do you think it's what's behind the public speaking, such as being in front of a huge crowd, like a crowd of people?
Yeah, like even if I don't have to talk and I have to go in front of a crowd and they're all watching me, I still feel like they're judging me.
Okay,
and my face will still get red.
So mostly the problem that you're bringing forward today is the anxiety and the nervousness you feel in front of a large crowd, whether it be speaking or just being in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll try and work on in this session.
Okay.
So first, tell me a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, your school.
So I grew up with my grandparents. My mom got remarried when I was in second grade. Up until then, I had been living with my grandparents and her, and we live in Weymouth. And so in second grade, my mom moved out. She moved to Fitchburg, and she lives with my stepdad, but I chose to stay with my grandparents. That's just where I feel more comfortable. I'm an only child, but I grew up with a dog, so that was my best friend growing up. I still currently live with my grandparents when I'm not at school, and I still talk to my mom every day. And now I have 2 new dogs because I feel like dogs are really important in my life now,
They are.
growing up as an only child.
I love dogs. So what's your family dynamic like? Tell me a little bit about. You said you grew up with your grandparents. Tell me about more
So,
about that.
my grandmother is like the sweetest person I've ever met. But it's funny because although I didn't grow up with my mom, I think I am very much like her.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I am with her, like I kind of look at her as more of a sister,
Mm-hmm.
an older sister, and so I can talk to her about certain things that I don't feel like I can talk to my grandparents about. But my grandparents weren't strict, like I guess like in for the generation that they grew up in, and so they let me be very independent and do what I wanted to do. So that was nice.
So do you feel you have a strong relationship with both your grandparents and your mom?
Yeah, I would say so.
That's good.
I'd say that my mom kind of plays more of a sisterly role though.
Sisterly role. How did you do in school? Did you like schoolwork? Do you enjoy school currently? Like,
I've always liked school. For some reason, I just had a passion for it. Right now, I go to Emmanuel College in Boston.
good college.
Yeah. I'm a sophomore, and I'm double majoring in psychology and sociology.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a lot of work, but for some reason, I've always been very dedicated to my grades. My grandparents let me go through school pretty like independently. Like they never were checking up on me and making sure I did my homework. I've just always done it on my own and taken pride in my work.
Do you you said you were double majoring. Do you feel like that entails a lot of public speaking and the projects? Does that now being in college there's a lot harder course load? Is there more projects that you have to present and presentations that trigger this anxiety? Do you feel like you have more of an anxiety now than you did in like middle school or high school?
I feel like there's more pressure when I'm up there
Pressure.
being in college compared to high school. I would find ways to try and get around presentations in high school. Um, Oftentimes, I was able to kind of just present to the teacher, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable than thinking that everyone was just judging me up there. And so that's definitely how I feel in college when I present. I did a presentation recently, and I find it really hard to focus on my topic because I'm just really anxious up there.
So you find it easier to just simply present to a professor or a teacher rather than a group of students?
It still makes me really nervous, but I feel less pressure with just like one set of eyes on me. And knowing it's my teacher takes some of the pressure off because my teacher already sees my other grades and they see how I perform, so I feel like they look at me differently than the other students look at me.
Mm-hmm. And how like what's the limit on people? Well, what I'm trying to say is how big does a group have to be before you start feeling this pressure or anxiety?
Even if just if like one student was sitting there,
Just one student.
it would like bother me. I just feel like um, they're just criticizing me in their head, and everything I do, they're just judging rather than listening to my presentation. I feel like students usually block out the material and are just like looking at the person up there and waiting for them to make a mistake or like stutter or anything like that. And I'm like, it always makes me very nervous, and I'm always trying to watch myself for little things like that I feel like I'm going to be judged for.
Right. So what I'm getting is it's mostly focused on peers that you feel very, very pressured and judged.
Yeah.
Judged is what I'm really picking up on you. And that's what triggers the anxiety and the
I guess
nervousness.
so.
Right? The feeling that they're making fun of you or they're judging you and they're not focusing on the topic that you're presenting on. That's what triggers. Okay, so have you talked to your friends about it? Like what are your friends like? Do you have a solid friend group? Tell me a little bit about your
Yeah.
friends?
I have a group of friends. There's about 6 of them, and even in front of them, sometimes I can feel a little bit judged.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on like the situation, though. It kind of can randomly happen that I feel like they might be judging me. I mean, growing up as a girl and growing up with a lot of friends that were girls, I know how girls are very critical over a lot of things. And even though I have a group of friends, I still feel like they might be judging me.
So do you feel that you get the same feeling of anxiety and nervousness that you get when you present in front of a large group, or when you are in front of a large group in your friend group?
I think it's kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
I just think when I'm in the when I'm presenting in front of a large group, I just feel like I can't escape.
Okay.
With my friends, like if I feel uncomfortable, I don't necessarily need to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of just fade to the background, but presenting in front of people, I just have nowhere to go. I just feel like I'm sort of trapped up there.
Do you know when these symptoms or feelings started to arise? Like, is there a point where you recognize like this was happening more often, or was it just always steady through school?
Um, I'm not really sure. Like,
Okay.
I think it kind of happened as I got older and you kind of learn that people do judge you
Mm-hmm.
quite often, and I just think that thought has always stuck in the back of my mind, and so I don't know.
All right. So tell me a little bit about. Do you have a job?
I do. I have 2 jobs right now.
And tell me a little bit more about them.
I work at Fenway Park in Boston. Um, I've been working there. This will be my 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a few positions there, and last year I actually ended the season as a supervisor.
Oh, wow.
So that was interesting. It was a different experience. Um, for some reason, I didn't feel like that leadership role. Um, like I looked at it differently than presenting something. Like
Right. I was about to go into asking you about whether or not you felt the same way, being, as you said, a supervisor in front of your coworkers. Did you feel a certain anxiety or
I
nervousness?
never
around
had to
that?
really like feel like I'm standing in like a stage in front of them. Um, and so it was more like the atmosphere at Fenway, I guess, is just a little bit more laid back.
Mhm.
And so I never felt that trapped position that it like makes me anxious during like presentations and stuff. So it's not that bad, and I really like it there. I like the people.
Mhm.
I think it's like a fun group.
Mhm.
I think that helps me not really feel like they're that judgmental. They're more laid back and there to have a good time. So
Okay. And do you have any history of psychological disorders or any treatment towards that? Anything that stemmed from this nervousness, or is it just solely this feeling of having a hard time public speaking and being in front of a crowd?
yeah, it's
So
just the speaking.
okay. So there's been no diagnosis.
No.
Okay. Any major past medical problems? Like, have you ever had a panic attack or anything that you would have to be admitted into the hospital because of this problem?
I've never gone to the hospital for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Although like I do feel like I've had a few panic attacks that I've kind of handled in my own way and on my own, and I don't think I necessarily handled them properly, which is why I decided I should come in and talk to you about that.
Well, that's a huge step in being able to admit that you need some guidance and help. But just tell me a little bit about the way you used to handle your panic attacks. Or
I just I kind of shut down after. Um, I will have these attacks preparing to do a presentation. I will rehearse over and over and over again to find any part where I could make an error. Um, any if there's any like words that are hard to pronounce, I will make sure I can 100% pronounce it for the day I give the presentation. Like I try and rehearse it to perfection so that I can like prevent anything from going wrong that possibly could go wrong.
Do you feel as if it's almost debilitating sometimes?
It takes a lot out of me. I know you can't really be perfect in things you do, and that's always in the back of my head. So just because I can do it on my own or do it in front of one person doesn't mean I can do it when it comes down to it.
Okay. And that's very understandable. A lot of people have this issue of standing in front of a crowd or public speaking. It's very common. But so other than not, so you had said you were never admitted into hospitals. You did feel panic attacks, but there's no like medical problems you've ever had. None. Okay. And any problems with substance abuse? Do you drink or smoke?
I do drink occasionally. I don't do it often because of school and work, and it takes up most of my time. But I do notice that I can be a more open person when I do drink, and it helps me with feeling anxious. But I would also never drink before giving a presentation because I may not feel anxious, but I'll run into a few other problems, likely. So that otherwise I would consider it as kind of a solution, but I know it would cause different problems. So,
So do you think that it would ever get to the point where you would use drinking more often as a solution to your presenting problem?
Not for like a presentation for school, but if it was something related to my friends, then definitely it helps me loosen up, and it makes me actually kind of care less about their opinions. But afterwards, when I'm myself again, I am critiquing everything that happened while I had drank, and I go right back to being anxious and embarrassed for just certain things that I would have been embarrassed for during that time.
So you would admit that it's more of in a social setting that you would, if you ever did use it as a solution. But then it would be a cycle almost of you drinking and then feeling more open and less nervous. But then when you were back to normal, you would think about what you did during that time under the influence, and then it would be a cycle again.
I spend a lot of time overanalyzing, I guess you could say, things that I do, even after I've done them, when I know they can't be changed, but I can't let go of them.
Right, hard to let go. Have you ever run into a problem with drinking? Do you think it's ever caused a problem in your life?
No. I'm not a big drinker. I personally don't think I use it enough for it to cause any problems right now.
And there's no past history of alcoholism in your family?
No.
All right, well, is there any other things that you haven't mentioned yet that you think I should know?
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think we hit most of the basics that I would need to know about you, so we had a very good session today. So thank you so much for being able to open up to me about a lot of the issues that you were having. And I hope I can help in future sessions.
Me too.